Everybody. Good evening, everybody. This is Team Flex Sprint B Bugatti report. A representative of each role will give you their report on what each member worked on, things they have achieved. Then we progress to the next role. Next slide, please. First will be Agile Delivery Manager report from me, Lorita Ogbewi. Next slide. We want to start off with in summary report of what we've done in the sprint. Our sprint goal for Sprint B Bugatti was to develop an authorization page with different features such as users registration, login, cookies, capture, and profile page. The project is currently showing as amber status because we experienced some delays in achieving our Sprint B goals, mainly because we have to complete some of our stories that we carried over from Sprint A. We are flagging amber because we are a little bit behind as we did some catch up with our story from Sprint A. After some very, very good work, the whole team put together, we've been able to deliver all 6 features that we committed in our previous sprint, and we have moved forward with work on the 6 stories that we committed in this Sprint Bugatti. To give you a breakdown, all stories in Sprint A are now committed. For Sprint B, 2 stories in QA, the user's registration and cookies, which is undergoing testing, but we have some bugs still open. This we will make sure we prioritize them first as we begin our next sprint so that we can deliver them. We now have 3 stories in dev, which our developers as of the end of this sprint are still working on. And then our last PBI, although we committed it to sprint, we move it back into committed because after discussion with the developers, we found out that if they work on it, it could hinder some of the quality analysis and testing. So we decided that we'll pause that for now and develop it in a later sprint. This was discussed with the team and agreed with the QAs and the PO. Also, aside from an update of what we have been doing, we've also as ADMs calculated our estimated budget for our resource and based on how much we spent every sprint. This being our 3rd sprint, we have spent £163,500. I will come to that details on the budget slide. So we want to highlight that our major achievement this sprint, even though we started off with some carryover and we more or less have 12 PBIs as of the start of Sprint B, we have delivered on 6 features. We have 2 in QA that we aim to deliver very quickly at the start of Sprint C, and we'll progress the order as well so that we can catch up. We've spent 50% of our proposed resource budget based on the breakdown that they gave us before, which comes about 163,500. I'll explain that when I get to the budget slide. But note, we've not yet gotten approval for the budget. We only have the estimate. We are going into Sprint C by flagging 2 main issues or impediments. Now we are going to talk about the different things each of the ADMs did. We all work on metrics. Kemi worked on list of tasks on demo. I chased up list of non-participant members for escalation. Choma chased up business analyst for list of BA documents to be completed in this sprint and added to the Azure Board Wiki. Next slide, please. So we show you some screenshots. This is our risks log that we all work on together to raise some of the risks that we had that as of today have now turned to issues. Here is our impediment log that our Scrum Masters has been keeping up to date and ADMs monitored to be sure that everything is going fine. Next slide, please. Chioma worked on organochart. Even though we all met together, Chioma took the lead to make sure that we get all the information, the feedback from training, corrections in here, and we created a second version more up to date, expecting to get further feedback on this. Next slide, please. Chioma also worked on getting the ADMs together, getting this document together, the power interest grid that we use to analyze our stakeholders. Next slide, please. This is also some work that Chioma did on the Azure board, uploading the different BA documents. Next slide, please. I took the lead working with the team to work on the raising metrics. We got feedback from trainers and mentors. We've done it again and expecting further feedback. I also work on getting the definition of done and ready into a soft page on the wiki, like Deji asked for, and also putting our sprint goal on the wiki. Next slide, please. Kemi led us working together on getting a stakeholder impact analysis metrics, looking at our main stakeholder and how we might want to engage with them. Next slide, please. Kemi also was leading as we were feeding into working on our estimated budget. This is based on the rate that Deji asked us to use and the number of resources. We were able to work out how much it will come to for each week, then for each 2 weeks in a sprint. So that way we can calculate the total for just resource over 3 months, which is 327,000. So this is our estimated budget as mentioned in the status report based on the cost plan that they just provided. We've worked out our budget over the next 6 sprints to be 327,000. We will be seeking approval for that because that was only for resource. We need to clarify if there are any non-resource costs or any budget tolerance we should be aware of. Based on that, we can solidify on what our proper budget is. But at the moment, £327,000 is our resource budget, and we have spent 50% of it so far. Okay, next slide, please. Kemi also did some work on the Azure board, putting the Scrum ceremonies into normal working time. And these are our interview questions. So that is the end. That is the ADM's report. I will now hand over to the Scrum Masters. Thank you.
Scrum Masters, Ijoma, can you come off mute, please?
Oh, sorry, I was speaking. I didn't know I was unmuted. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ijoma Otoropo, and I'm a representative for the Scrum Masters in Team Flex. Next slide, please. Here we have a project board status for Sprint Bugatti. This is just a summary of what is on our Azure board. You can see the new to the done. A brief summary. Next slide, please. And here we have our burn down metrics from Sprint Bugatti. In comparison to our burn down metrics for Sprint 1, we have progressed successfully. Next slide, please. And this is our burn up metrics for Sprint Bugatti. Next slide. Here we have our velocity. As you can see, in our velocity for Sprint 2 is way above our velocity for Sprint 1, which shows that we have improved in this sprint. Bugatti, thank you. Next slide, please. We have a screenshot release notes for Sprint Bugatti. You can see the our completed user story and task. and the box that were fixed in this sprint. Next slide, please. This is our attendance report for Sprint Bugatti. I must say that our attendance has improved from Sprint 1 to Sprint 2. Judging from the average of 12 attendance that we now have like an average of 21 per this sprint. Next slide. This is our graph. You can see the average is 21 and we have less absentees. Next slide, please. And this is tasks worked on by Farouk. I'll just summarize for everyone to save time. This is all of us facilitated all the Scrum ceremonies. Please, next slide. And we also, this is the screenshots for the tasks worked by Farouk. Next slide. This is his 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. And this is Ijeoma's task worked on. Next slide. Her 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. This is Esther's task worked on. Next slide. Her 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. And this is the task worked on by Kenneth Okiria. Next slide. His 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. Task worked on by Isaiah Adetuwo. Next slide. His 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. This is the highlight of Sprint Bugatti. We completed 11 PBIs versus the 0 PBIs we have in Sprint Aston Martin. We enhanced and redesigned the DSC, the Daily Stand-Up Attendance Tracker. We increased the team engagement and participation and attendance at Scrum ceremonies, and restructured and realigned team leadership. I must say that previously in Sprint 1, when we like nominate a leader and an assistant, we find the other team members redundant, leaving everything to the leader and assistant. But in this sprint, we decided to like delegate duties. We have a leader, yes, but we delegate all the duties to other members. So we have like a roster where we say, you do this on Monday, you do this person, another person. So the duties are shared, and this enhanced team involvement. So everybody's hands were dirty. Thank you. I now hand over to the business analyst presenter. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yemi Olorunfemi, and I'm the presenter for the BA team. So overall, we have 8 BAs in our team. Next slide, please. So right now, we will play a short clip to show you what we have done so far. It will be on a fast speed because of time, but it is a view of where we are presently.
And this is the platform. So so far it's showing, so I'm just going to reject. This is what we've done so far. And initially when we started with an epic story for Sprint 1, which was a static landing page. Although we moved to Sprint 2, but I'm just going to start on all the characters we looked for Sprint 1, sorry. So for Sprint 1, one of what we were looking for was a kickstart as a mentee and a kickstart as a mentor. So that is there, and this is there. They're both unclickable, so you can see. Now and then we needed the header too, which had about us, find a mentor, sign up, login. So that is there too. We all know what we're told about the get started. So we have that, and then the banner goes across the field of the length of the screen. So from the beginning to the end of the screen. Now let's go to the footer. So just like we said, we wanted the dark blue footer, which is here. The info@mentorskid.com, which is here, phone number, and then social media sites, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We all have that there. And then the newsletter for now is not active, and terms and conditions. So far we have achieved all these for sprint 1. And then for sprint 2, I know we committed the sign up and the login, but the sign up is still being worked on because I believe if I'm not wrong, we had a couple of bugs to work on. That is the profile registration, I think, user registration. So, but for the login, you can see a login works. Now, because we don't have the sign up, we generally can't log in. But to test that the sign up works, I'm just going to go to use my email address, just to reverse test it to show that if you type in a wrong email address, it will give you a message stating that the wrong email address has been used. That for me is enough to show that it works. So just going to type in password. As we put in our acceptance criteria, which is it should be encrypted, it is encrypted. So you can see the message comes up, wrong email, user, or password. So that's good for us. I think that does it for us.
Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, these are the list of the documents that we have completed so far on the screen. So in this sprint, we completed the system requirements and specification document, the gap analysis document, and the training guides. And in sprint A, we completed the documents to your left. Next slide, please. So I'm going to run through what we completed as individually. For myself, we wrote the user story. I did write the user story and acceptance criteria for the calendar feature. I had a elicitation meeting with the PO, and I completed the rest of the bullet points on the screen. Next slide, please. So this is a screenshot of my user story and the acceptance criteria. Next slide. And a screenshot of the wireframe that I created for my computer. Next slide, please. I did create a process map for my calendar, the process to completing that task. Next slide, please. And I did complete the initiation document for during sprint 1. Next slide. And this sprint, I completed the system requirement specification document, which this is a screenshot of. Next slide. And this is a screenshot of the gap analysis for our project. Next slide. Continuation of this gap analysis. Next slide, please. And these are 10 potential interview questions with the answers. Next slide. So for Jamie, this is the task he completed. He collaborated with the stakeholders, planned sprint 3 elicitation session with the BA team and the rest of the bullet points. Next slide. This is a screenshot of what Jamie completed. He worked on the profile details, and this is a screenshot of his user story and acceptance criteria. Next slide, please. This is the screenshot of the wireframe that he developed for the profile details. Next slide. And that's the wireframe continues. Next slide. Still on his wireframe. Next slide, please. This is a screenshot of the task he completed for the profile setting page. The process map. And these are the 10 potential questions that he developed. Next slide. Next, we have Moses Adepoju, one of the BAs. These are the tasks that he worked on this sprint. Next slide, please. And this is a screenshot of his user story and acceptance criteria. Next slide. This is a screenshot of the wireframe that Moses completed. And this is the wireframe for the contact details. And these are next slide. This is the 10 potential questions that he worked on. Next slide. Next, we have Beatrice Onwino, and these are the tasks he completed during this sprint. Next slide. Beatrice worked on the securities part of the profile page, and this is a screenshot of user story and acceptance criteria. Next slide. This is a screenshot of the wireframe for the security page that Beatrice designed. Next slide. And these are the 10 potential interview questions that she created with the answers. Next, we have Edward Thomas, who completed the task on area of expertise, and this is a screenshot of his user story and acceptance criteria. Next slide. Next slide, please. This is a screenshot of the wireframe that Edward completed for the area of expertise. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, and these are the 10 potential interview questions with the answers that he created. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, and I'll hand over to the QAs. And overall, we have 8 BAT members, but we have 3 inactive members that need to submit work for next spring. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed. I'm the QA lead for the sprint. Next slide. This is test metrics showing the Sprint B, what we've done in Sprint B. If you look at the first one, show the test cases 31, number of manual tests run 100%, number of test cases not run 0, passed. We have 84% passed. We have 16% failed. We have we've not done any automation yet, and number of bug identified. We have 2 + 5 there. Bug status that we have 2 fixed and closed, 5 still open, and bug carryover from Sprint 1 PBIs. We have 5 PBI that was carryover from Sprint 1. We have carryover bug from Sprint 1 as well. We have 10 of them have been fixed and closed. Next, and then next slide. Okay, back. Okay, this is all the tests that we did. We have 26 passed. 5 bugs were raised. Next slide. This is our Sprint board. This is our Azure board showing the definition of done and definition of ready and what we have on the board. Next slide. This is my work. I retested the bug from Sprint 1 and they passed, so I moved them to done. I also tested my work that I did to start mentor and mentee, and that was moved to QA done to be picked up by, and it was picked up by BA. And I also wrote some test cases for capture, which is in committed, and I facilitated meetings with my team, and I also collaborated with a senior QA. Next slide. And this is some of the test cases that I wrote for capture. This is a positive test case. You can see that I had a share step there, which you can see on the left slide there. You will see the go to web and enter URL. If you compare it to the one on the right, you will see go to web and enter URL. That was expanded. And then the test case is written for capture below. Next slide. This is the same thing, but this is a negative test case that was written. Next slide. This is my question and answers, potential interview question and answers. And this is for Abel Eshun, and he raised some bugs in Sprint 1 they were fixed, 3 of them, and all were in header user story. And he worked on GDPR cookies user story as well. He created test cases from QA to QA, waiting for BA to change. And he designed total of 10 positive and negative test cases in GDPR user story. Next slide. And these are his test cases. He was also involved in a automation meeting that we did. He also set up the automation framework. Next slide. This is this is a positive test case and a shared step that he did as well. Next slide. This is a negative test case and a shared step that he did. If you can see the shared step on the right. Next slide. These are the bugs that he raised. Next slide. This is the total number of passed and failed test cases. So we have 9 test cases that passed and 1 bug was raised. Next. Here we have the total sum of what Abel did. We have the test cases written 10, and we have the test cases executed 100%, test cases passed 90%, and 1 failed. Next. These are the potential 10 interview questions and answers. Next slide. This is for Rose Okere. He retested footer and logo bug face passed, and also was involved in a QA meeting. He put together team and end of sprint report. He facilitated one-to-one catch up with a team member, and she was involved in the sprint 3 refinement. Next slide. This is a manual test that Rose performed. If you look at the percentage, you will see that the test case executed was 100%. And then the test cases passed was 58%, while we have 42% failed test cases. So critically, this was a good one. Next slide. This is a user story. So if we look at the number of test cases, which is showing the number of test cases passed and failed on the right-hand side, that's the user registration, and this is the screenshot. Next slide. This is the total number of test cases written and bug. So number of pass and fail on the user registration is the chart. Next slide. And this is the screenshot of the task completed by Rose on the sign up, not clickable. Next slide. This is another screenshot of successful registration with invalid first and last name. Next slide. This is another screenshot of register with valid details. Next slide. This is another test case. Cases that were written that user cannot register with invalid password combination. Next slide. This Rose's 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. This is Ayo Akinyemi's task, what he did in Sprint 2. He designed both valid and invalid test cases. He executed test cases, conduct retested on fixed bug, and liaise with developers as well, and attended and participated in daily stand-up. Next slide. He was also involved in automation setup, and these are the number of test cases all passed. Next slide. And this is the screenshot of tasks. Verify login with valid credentials. Next slide. This is the breakdown of what Ayo did. So the test cases executed 100% and 100% passed, and 1 bug was raised and 1 bug was, the same bug was fixed. Next slide. This is another screenshot of what Ayo did on one of the test cases he worked on to verify login with invalid email and valid password. Next slide. This is a login page not displayed. This is I think it's a bug that he raised. This is a screenshot of a bug raised on Visual. Next slide. This is 10 potential interview questions and answers. This Edith task. Edith is the senior QA in this sprint. So she has repeated test cases about us, drop down box. And then, okay, this is the next print. This is a screenshot of what she did, positive and negative test cases. Next slide. This is her potential interview 10 question and answer. Next slide. I'll hand over to the journalist. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Olateju, data analyst. Just going to go through our report for the sprint. All right, so in data analyst team, so what we've done this sprint is we've done some data manipulation, creating stuff on our Power BI, doing some calculations in columns and in tables. Then we also worked on our Tableau in respect to the sprint. Next slide, please. All right. So this is Kemi's screenshot of what she did, which is just more of a query. This is on Power BI. Next slide. Then our wireframe for our relationship for the sprint. Next slide, please. And just doing the same thing that she has done for the sprint, just what we've done when we are on our Power BI. Next slide. The same thing, doing some calculations, just quick calculations and measures on Power BI. Next slide. Then just a breakdown of what she did on Power BI, which is just more of, as I said earlier, the introduction to DAX, then calculations on measures and columns. Then just creating a little bit of an example of what she did. Next slide. All right, then this is our 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. Then the same thing for Samuel. Just the same process we've gone through, but this is Samuel's slide. And this is his presentation of what we've done, what he did on Power BI. Next slide. The same thing for his relationship for the data that we used on Power BI. Next slide. Showing his connection one-to-one and all on Power BI, just showing his relationship table. Next slide. Then the same thing showing calculations of what he has done on his Power BI. Next slide. All right, then this calculation of measures and also introduction to DAX. Next slide. Also his calculation slide. Next slide. Yeah, this is this 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next slide. All right, this is Abiola's, what Abiola did in the sprint. So she had a little bit of more breakdown in respect to what we did and in respect to Tableau and Power BI. So in the Tableau data page, we did calculation for yearly suicide and suicide age and overall of the data for the data for suicide, then also on the Power BI. Next slide. Yeah, this is what he's showing of what she did for the data for the most suicide done. Slide, then the age of most suicide. Next. Then this is our data model in Power BI. Next slide, please. Then the same thing, Power BI DAX, just showing our calculations she did on Power BI. Next slide. And this is our 10 interview questions. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is for Temokun. Then just what she did in the sprint and also on both on Power BI and Tableau. Next slide. Yes, our data model interface wireframe. Slide. Just showing just a breakdown of how she got to do the data and the relationship table for data on Power BI. Next slide. The calculation she did. Next slide. Then our own presentation for visualization on Tableau in respect to the age of most suicide. Next. Then the age for most suicide, another visualization for it. Next. Then our own 10 potential interview questions and answers. Right, this is for Pierce, what she has done on Power BI. Next. Also, our data model in Power BI. Next slide, please. Our calculations. Next. Yeah, just the way she went about getting those calculations, just showing the relationship, the region, and all. Next slide, please. Yeah, she has a breakdown of what our relationship table looks like, just a one-to-one, one-to-many relationship table, just giving her a little bit of a breakdown. Next, please. Then for our Tableau, what she has done on our Tableau. Next, just showing a different visualization from what we've seen before. Next, please. Then our age of most used side. Next. Then also the relationship between age and between year and age on Tableau in relationship to the suicide. Next, please. All right, then this is our 10 potential interview questions. Yeah, this is mine, what I've done, what I did doing on Power BI and Tableau for the sprint. Yeah, just my breakdown of my calculations that was done on Tableau. Next. Then just a screenshot of my relationship table. Next, please. Then also just a dashboard of what I did in respect to my age of most suicide and in respect to that. Next, please. Then my 10 potential interview questions and answers. Next. Yeah, this is for Tosin, just what she did on Tableau. Also on Power BI. Yes, our relationship table. Next. Then just a calculation on the Power BI. Yes, next, please. Yeah, just showing you a little bit of more breakdown on how she went about doing the calculation for DAX calculations on Power BI. Next. Then this is what she did on Tableau in respect to suicide. Yes, this is the visualization for year of most suicide. Then age with most suicide, the visualization, the relationship between age and year overall view for the suicide data set. Next, please. Then 10 potential interview questions and answers. Yes, then currently, we also have a member of the team, Kemi. She had a little bit of an issue, so she wasn't able to put in a slide. She had a technical issue with her laptop. I'm sure she'll be back with us in the next slide. I think that's all for the data analytics team. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for listening to our Team Flex report on Sprint Bugatti. Our goal for Sprint C is to catch up on our PBIs that we've carried over and to work on these features specified by our PO, aiming to really work with our developers to catch up and move forward swiftly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Team Flex. Hold on, let me pause this recording.
Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, you can see your screen.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Omobolanle, we're waiting for you.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Omobolanle, Scrum Master. This is the introduction to our sprint, the Balsamic sprint report. It's nice to see you all. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Sorry, 1 second.
All right.
Okay, my screen just, okay.
All right, now I'll be handing over to the ADMs to give their own report. Thank you.
Thank you, Omobolanle. Good evening, everyone. My name is Oluwatoyin, and I'm one of the ADM for Super Alpha team. And tonight I'll be speaking about our report for Sprint Balsamic. with the reporting period being 16th of October to 29th of October. Next slide, please. Itoen, next slide, please. All right, thank you. So the project name is MentorSkid, and our project mandate is to develop a mentorship website that will allow users to connect with mentors from various industries and fields. The timeline for this project is 3 months, whilst our project, the project budget is £345,000. Next slide, please. We're currently within the budget based on our actual spending against the budget. As you can see, our actual spend is 172,500, and with the variance being 172,500. This is because we are at the middle of the project, so we are well within budget. Next slide, please. Our team attendance tracker. Our development team is our daily Scrum meetings are a crucial aspect of our project success. So for this, since the beginning of the project, we've had 70% of our team being active, taking part in all the project meetings, Scrum ceremonies, and also 15% has been excused or were excused during this since the beginning of the project. Excuse means that they took permission or gave us a reason for being absent or being away. However, we have 15% of the members who have not been attending the meeting since we started. Next, please. Next slide, please. For our risk and issues, during this reporting period, we identified just one high risk issue, and that is to do with the backend, the website backend being down. And the resolution was for the QA team to carry on testing, and to also ensure that everything is working once the website comes back on. And the owner for this particular issue has been assigned to, or was assigned to the Scrum Master and also the developer. Next, please. We created a racing matrix, and this is for us to work effectively and also to ensure that we are able to identify the right people in our project so that we can reach them and collaborate with them efficiently. We were able to map out who is responsible within this project and also who are accountable for things that we need within the project, and also to be consulted and also informed as we ensure to work seamlessly within the project. Next slide, please. We also created our stakeholder matrix, and this is to help us understand our internal and external stakeholder. We use this matrix to identify those with greater power and interest over the project, and those who are likely to have a huge impact on the project, and those who also have less influence on the project. We color-coded it. I'm not sure. We have Deji as being satisfied and the board being to manage closely, and also the admin and other members to monitor. Next slide, please. We created our organelle chart using the Miro board, and this is also to illustrate who the project teams are, their roles and responsibility within the project as well. Next slide, please. Our next deliverables are to create a detailed project plan, identify dependencies of the project. Also, we're looking to capture lessons learned and also to carry on with our Scrum ceremonies. Next slide, please. During this sprint period, I contributed to some deliverables, and part of it was me creating an organelle chart with the other team members. I also created a daily attendance tracker to ensure we have sufficient capacity in order to deliver the project. I also contributed to the creation of the stakeholder matrix, which help us to identify who we are to liaise with based on the level of interest and power in delivering the project within the timeline and budget. I created the cost and budget sheet monitor, budget sheet just to monitor our spending against our budget. And also throughout the project, I collaborated effectively with all the project's Scrum team during the Scrum ceremonies. Next slide, please. And this is a screenshot of the rate log. Next slide, please. The cost analysis sheet that was created as well by me. Next slide, please. Cost and budget plan, also created by me. Next slide, please. This is one of an ADM team also, who also participated, Oluyinka Omilani, who participated in analyzing the RACI matrix and also apportioned all roles and responsibilities for each role during the meeting. He created the organo chart along with the ADM teams as directed by Mr. Deji. And he also worked on a stakeholder matrix with the ADM team as well. Next slide, please. And our last ADM manager is Isaac Eyang, who also created the organo chart using the Miro board and collaborated with the other ADMs to complete the project team organo chart. He also created the stakeholder mapping, and also he created a project wiki page on Azure DevOps and uploaded all the reports in the ADM page. He also attended and contributed to all Scrum ceremonies. Next slide, please. This is the RACI matrix that was created by Isaac. Next slide, please. This is the stakeholder mapping that was created also by Isaac during this period. Next slide, please. And the Alpha Team organo chart that was created on the Miro board. Thank you. I shall now hand over to our Scrum team. Thank you, Etoye.
All right. Thank you, Oluwatoyin. Yeah, this is our individual slide presentation for the Biosemantic Sprint by Omobolade Talabi, the Scrum Master. Next slide, please. During this sprint, we're able to analyze and understand the roles of our team members, which is this is a picture of a detailed Scrum team roles and structure. Scrum teams Scrum teams include product owner, which defines and prioritizes features of project backlogs, and also decide the release and date of content. Then also the Scrum Masters, they facilitate Scrum processes and team self-organization, and also they remove impediments. Then other development teams are the developers, quality assurance, and business analysts and architects. Next slide, please. And also during this sprint, we're able to also complete the RACI matrix table with the ADMs. This is a graphical representation of what we've been able to achieve. Next slide, please. And also, we're able to facilitate Scrum ceremonies such as daily Scrum, sprint planning, sprint retrospective, sprint review, and product backlog refinement. Next slide, please. And also, we're able to understand use case importance, and which has several elements, which are the actors, that is the person or the machine or the business that is involved, the system, which is the boundary that is the rectangular box, which is in the diagram, and also the relationship, which is the solid lines between actors and the use cases. These are graphical representations of what I've been able to come up with. Next slide, please. Yeah, then the 10 interview questions and answers that I've been able to work on. Next slide, please. Also, more of the 10 questions and answer. I don't know what is happening to the slide. It's not arranged properly. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are the questions and answer. So my colleague also, which is Pitwen, the Scrum Master, he also came up and worked on different Scrum values, which is courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. Next slide, please. And this is our Azure DevOps board. It was able to solve some impediments that was created and that was brought up by some of our team members and half our group. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, this is the retrospective meeting that we had that was a few days ago. Next slide, please. This is the attendance. This is the screenshot of the attendance that we had, showing the participants and some people that also give excuses for not being able to attend the meeting. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the burn up. This is the burn up for our. Yes, this is the burn up chart for Super Helpful. Next slide, please. Yes, without taking much of our time. Yes, this is just like a breakdown and a screenshot of our attendance log. From this, it shows the people that actually participate, people that, and some people that actually showed up and, with excuses, and people that didn't show up at all. So this is just a graphical representation for some member of our teams. And this is the 10 Scrum interview questions that he was able to come up with. Next slide, please. And these are the answers to the question. Next slide, please. This is a write-up from one of our members, Joy Hemorioye. She was able to facilitate some sprint plannings, and she also assisted in setting up dashboards, created pages for each roles on the Azure board, including the sprint backlogs. These are the questions and answers she was able to come up with. Next slide, please. This is the continuation of the question and answer. Next slide, please. Yes, the Super Alpha Scrum Master team. These are the members. Thank you. And I will, at this point, hand over to our BA, who will be facilitating their group presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Omobolanle. Good evening, everyone. My name is Temi, and I'm representing for BA for Sprint Balsamiq. Next slide, please. The Sprint goal is website navigation. And these are some of the documentations that we've familiarized ourselves with. And these are some of the tools as well that we used during this sprint. And these are the list of the names of BA team members. Next slide, please. This is the requirement matrix, which shows the start of the project and where we are at the moment. We're actually working on Sprint 4. We've managed to gather our requirements from the product owner. So we're working on it at the moment. Next slide, please. This is our requirement elicitation. And this, at the top, you can see the persona. That's the user of the websites that we're working on, the MentorSkills website. Next slide, please. This is the product backlog, and this is one of our user stories as well. And in the product backlog, we have the epic, the futures, backlog, product backlog items, 4 user stories, approved user stories, the UAT done, and we've at the moment we have 20 user story is already committed and done. Next slide, please. This is one of the features that we worked on the website navigation, which is banner 1. And this is the user story and the acceptance criteria. Next slide, please. This is the view of the backlog. Some of the user stories that has been committed, has been approved. And we still have about 2 that is in BA done. Next slide, please. This is also some of the backlog. Next slide. This is the wireframe for the website navigation about us that we worked on in Sprint 3. This is the full diagram of the about us feature. Next slide. And this is the stakeholder matrix for the project, which is also known as a power interest grid. Is one of the tools that we use in categorizing the stakeholders in terms of their level of power or influence, and also the level of interest or impact in the project we're working on. So you can see the Agile Delivery Manager, the product owner, the developer, and the Scrum Master. Next slide. This is also the race chart that we actually use, which we use to identify the tasks in terms of the needs of clarification of roles and the responsibility by making sure that it is communicated to all stakeholders involved in the project. Next slide, please. And this is the process map for the mentee, which actually shows the stats from when they log in into the website, the MentorSkills website, till the end, the full process. Next slide, please. And this is also the use case for the MentorSkills website, and looking at the mentee and the mentor, which are the persona for the MentorSkills website. Next slide. So next is my presentation in terms of what the tasks that I've completed so far in the project. Next slide. This is my elicitation document, which was gathered during the requirements elicitation with the PO. Next slide. And this is the user story I completed on the assigned tasks, banner 2, which I worked on. This is the user story and the acceptance criteria. Next slide. And this is the wireframe for the banner 2 completed by me. Next slide, please.
Sorry, 1 minute, please. Could you go back to the previous slide? Previous 2 slides, the one about, yeah, I just want to quickly see something. Okay, thank you. So sorry.
Okay. All right, so these are the potential interview questions that I completed, the questions and the answers. Next slide, please. Next slide, this is part of the questions. And this is my BA colleagues, Adiola's presentation, what she's learned so far, and the tasks she's been working on. User story worked on so far, login, banners, social media icon, area of expertise, MentorSkills login page, banner 3. Next slide. And this is what she's learned so far, the skills, the tools that she's used, collaboration trainings that she's attended. Next slide. And this is the requirement elicitation for the task that she's been assigned. Next slide. And this is our user story completed. for burner 3. Next slide. And this is the wireframe for the assigned tasks. Next slide. And this is our 10 interview questions and answers. Next slide, please. Next. Next. And the next one is Moyo's presentation. Next, please. This is the task that Moyo has been working on. These are some of the tools that Moyo has used. Next, please. And this is Moyo's user stories and acceptance criteria for the task he's been assigned. That's for burner 3 as well. Next slide. And this is the wireframe for the task for the project. Next slide. And this is the 10 interview questions and answers completed by Moyo. Next, please. Next part of the questions. Next. Yes, so the next one is Uche presentation, one of the BAs as well. And this is the work Uche has been working on. And this is some of Uche's acceptance criteria on the assigned tasks and user stories. Next, please. And this is the wireframe for the tasks assigned. Next, please. And this is Uche's 10 interview questions and answers completed by her. Next, that's the interview questions, yeah. And next is Wally's presentation, one of BA's as well. Next, please. This is the work that's been completed by Wally. Next, please. And this is Wally's user stories, acceptance criteria, wireframe completed by him for the task assigned for burner 3 upper layer. Next, please. And this is the use case completed by Wally. And this is the, sorry, okay. This is the interview questions completed by Wally, 10 with the answers. Next, please. And the last one is Roy's presentation, BA. Next. This is the task completed by Rohit, and which is banner 1, is user story, acceptance criteria, and the wireframe. Next, please. And this is the 10 interview questions and answers completed by Rohit. Next. Yeah, interview questions. Thank you so much for listening. Over to QA, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Adegboyega Oyedele, a representative of the QA, and to give our balsamic sprint report. Next, please. So, meet the team. Next, please. So what we've done so far for the balsamic report, ranging from sprint planning, text case design, exploratory testing, documentation, and a list of them. Next, please. So for the product backlog items that were committed, you can see a list of them, the sign-up page, profile page, terms and conditions. Next, please. So this is overall, this is the Azure board on the committed PBIs. Next, please. So this is the QA, this is the trend, shows for the balsamic sprint, where we started from. And in terms of the user stories and the engagements we've actually done with the Azure board, you can see a tremendous progress from the beginning of the sprint. Next slide, please. So this is a statistical information of what we've done in the sprint. You can see the number of passed, failed tests, the ones that blocked, the one in progress. Next, please. So this is another form of statistical representation of the total summary of what the team had done. Next, please. So we now go to the individual report for the QA team. In no particular order, we'll start with Alex Johnson, who is the QA team. He worked on the reset password product backlog item. Next, please. So this is the user story. Next, please. Next. So you can see all the tests he has done for positive and some failed tests. Next, please. So these are all the activities as well that he has done for the blog negative test cases, and a lot of them, including parameterization for positive login, invalid and valid logins. You can see 32 iterations. That's a lot. Next, please. Next. Okay, so these are the screenshots of the likely things he has done. Next, please, for the reset password. These are the tests, the screenshots of the tests, which we can see from here. Okay, we have a failed test here. Next. These are parameterization for invalid and valid logins, you can see, using Safari browser. Next, please. Also parameterization given the user test cases. Also from the parameterization, you can see he has done a lot of test cases. We have over 20 user test cases for the parameterization. Next, please. This is a screenshot to actually let you know that, okay, he's actually working on those things. Next, please. These are the error message for the test cases he has done. Next. Okay, so parameterization values, if you could see, he has worked on various browsers, Safari and Chrome. Next, please. Still same, that's continuation of it. Okay, this is the data iteration with the bug number total. You can see the total of iteration passed and then to the one that it's failed. Next, please. So responsibility of the QA lead. He has a lot of representative responsibilities, and then so far he's been very, very agile on it. Next, please. So a little brief graph on what Alex has done so far. The total number of tests, the one passed, failed, and then the one blocked. Next, please. And started on automation testing. Yes, this is just a briefest scenario of the automation testing. Next, please. Yeah, the next line is Dijat, and she worked on the login page.
Sorry, Bega, can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Yes, he has actually improved on the automation. He's tried.
Sorry, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, let's go. Next. Yeah, Adida worked on the login page, product backlog item. Next, please. Yes, okay, for the backlog item number, you can see the description. She had made positive test cases and negative test scenarios. Next. So what a brief summary of what Adijat had done for functional testing, boundary value analysis, cross-browser using parameterization. Next, please. Yeah, okay. Brief history of what she has done. Yes, you can see the test steps. Go ahead, next. You can see the test steps, test results for login functionality for positive test case scenarios. Next. This one for negative test case scenario, you can see definitely we have a bug report there. Next, please. Parameterization techniques as well. She also did over 20 test cases for parameterization. Next, please. There you can see them even using different browsers, Safari, Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Mozilla Firefox. Next, please. Then the overall product report of what she had done. You can see the green representing the past and the red representing the field. Next, please. So for the non-testing contribution he had done to the Agile team, you can see participated in the sprint refinement, daily stand-up user story. Next, please. So the 10 interview questions. We can just move through this, just go. Oh, yeah, the next is Mercy. Mercy worked on the sign-up page product backlog item. Next. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, you can see there. This is user story for Mercy. Next. So, part of our assessment, acceptance criteria now, and the text steps she had done. Next, please. The results. The result, you can see some negative field results. Next. Continuation of sign-up page email addressing negative testing. Next, please. Testing for the mail using two browsers, Chrome and Edge browser. Next. This is the result of the direct test she had. Next. Continuation of one of the various tests she had done. Next. Okay, now the another PBI for Mercy is the provide page button, which she also did. This is a user story with the acceptance criteria and the additional information. Next, please. Next, the same thing. Okay, you can see the user story for the profile page button. Next. Okay, so for the user can sign up with password. That's just a screenshot of what she had done to let you know there is a positive test case. Next, please. So this is a mail she received to confirm that the test was successful. Next, please. The next online is Adewega, who worked on contact details, product backlog item. Next, please. So contact details, validating and verifying contact details, getting through to mentors and buddies. Next, please. That's a summary of what he's about to do. Next. So you can see the screenshot for positive and negative test cases. Next, please. So okay, for the positive test case, you can see, okay, for positive test case, logged in as a mentee. Next. Okay, the contact details deadlocked. Okay, this is a test case which failed. Next. The negative testing, verifying a clickable profile settings. Next, please. Also part of the negative testing, contact details omission. There's a user story and you can see shared steps are created. Next, please. Also negative testing for a visible contact details but not clickable, and also using the shared steps. Next, please. So this is the bug report. Next. Okay, this is also automation. I was trying to let us, okay, the installation went well and the system is ready for automation. Next, please. So interview questions, just scroll to the next team. Next team. Next. Okay, so next is Adora. Next, please. Yeah, Adora worked on product backlog item, terms and condition, which he also created shared steps, cross-browsing testing. We can see the test. The test went well. Next, please. Okay, this is still an a screenshot of the positive testing. Next, please. Formatting test and condition. This is still okay. Okay, from here we can see verifying visitors view terms and condition. We can see here that the test failed. So, they're raising a bug. Next, please. Terms and condition, yes, still on the testing. Next. Verifying, next, yes. Next, please. Okay, no, please go back once. Yeah, if for the second PBI for Adura, we have them email text box. So this is a user story for it. Next, because it worked on 2. So view footer on landing page, that's for the email text box, not aligning. So this is the user story for it. Next. Next, same thing. That's for the testing. You can see the view email, the description, the user story with the acceptance criteria for the view email box. Next. Okay, still user story. And part of the various tests he carried out to make sure things went well. Next. View footer on landing page. Next, please. Still part of the test. Next. Terms and conditions tier browser. Okay. So still part of the screenshot of what he has done. Next. Verifying visitors terms and condition with shared steps. Okay. Okay, yeah, I created some parameterization here as well. You can see from there. Next. Okay, parameterization here for the formatting test terms and condition with cross browser. Okay. Next, please. The user